Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're looking at a really powerful real-world story. It comes from a YouTube transcript, someone sharing their own experience.
Yeah, and it's a story that really resonates, I think.
It does. It's all about value, about experience, and, well, what happens when a company gets focused on short-term savings?
Forgetting about the critical stuff, right? The infrastructure, the people who built it.
Exactly. So the main figure here is Victor Hale, lead systems engineer, 18 years at a company called Veltria Housing.
And our goal here, is to unpack Victor's account. Look at the key decisions, the consequences, pull out some surprising facts about workplace value and critical systems.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Victor's history with this company goes way back, almost 2 decades before things went south. It wasn't even Veltria then.
No, it was Bayview Properties.
Yeah.
And when Victor started, tiny. He described it as just like 2 desktop computers, a fax machine,
Wow.
and dial-up internet. The owner, Harold Bay, hired him basically saying, build something solid. They wanted to grow.
And he really did. Over 18 years, he built this whole integrated property management system. From scratch, pretty much.
Yeah, handling everything, right? Tenant applications, rent, maintenance requests, the works.
Yeah.
Across, 63 properties?
Clear States, yeah. It was a big custom system.
Right. And things were steady for a long time. The big change came about 5 years before the events Victor focuses on. Harold retired.
His son Justin sold it.
Sold it to a private equity firm. That's when it became Veltria Housing. They kept Victor on initially. I mean, they kind of had to, right, given the system. But the culture shifted, new executives, new priorities. Suddenly, it was all about quarterly targets, not long-term stability.
And Victor saw signs, right? The first one he mentions was about documentation.
Ah, yes. He kept proposing they hire a documentation team.
Yeah.
Rejected every single time. Too expensive, they said. Or, maybe next quarter.
The irony there is just painful, given what happened later.
Totally. Then came the consultants, young MBAs, talking disruption, cloud solutions.
Buzzwords.
Exactly. But they didn't seem to grasp the custom system already in place.
Victor tried to tell them.
Oh, yeah. He explained why their generic ideas wouldn't work, showed them the custom code. But, well, they eventually just cut him out of the loop, stopped inviting him to planning meetings.
And his wife, Elaine, she kind of saw it coming.
She did. It's quite insightful. She told him, they're pushing you out, and you need to prepare.
But Victor felt indispensable.
Yeah, he thought, they need me. Nobody else understands this system. Which sounds logical, right?
Elaine's reply
Was brilliant. That might be exactly the problem.
Right.
His indispensability might have been seen as a liability, a cost center they wanted to eliminate.
Oof. So about 6 months before the end, they bring in a new CTO, Graham Vickers.
Yep. 42, designer glasses, Cornell MBA, the whole package. His focus, standardization, replace legacy systems, you know the type.
I do. And he hired juniors to shadow Victor.
3 of them, fresh out of college, supposedly to learn the system. Victor answered their questions, but he knew they weren't getting the deep stuff, the years of fixes, the dependencies.
So the actual termination, how did that go down?
Yeah.
Sounds like it was pretty abrupt.
Victor says Graham just popped by his office casual. Quick meeting tomorrow morning, just a quarterly check-in.
But it wasn't.
Not at all. Victor walks in. It's Graham and Diane from HR. And Graham apparently just says, with a smirk, according to Victor, we can get 3 junior engineers for your salary. Nothing personal, just cost-cutting.
Wow, after 18 years, just a line item.
Exactly. The severance offer. 2 months salary plus his vacation time.
And Victor's reaction was interesting, calm.
Surprisingly calm on the outside. He said he just nodded, took the folder they gave him and asked, thank you. Is that all you have to say?
Which probably wasn't what they expected.
No, Victor notes they looked confused, maybe expected yelling, threats, something.
But inside.
Inside, he was just done, finished. They even offered him a consulting deal for the transition. Yep. He said he'd think about it, but he knew he wouldn't take it.
The description of him leaving, 18 years in one box, colleagues looking away, that's rough.
Very telling. And then the text message as he's walking out from Alan, the database admin he'd hired.
What did it say?
This is bullshit, Vic. The whole team's freaking out. They knew. The team knew what management didn't understand.
Which brings us to the crux of it, doesn't it? What Graham and the others completely missed.
The critical piece? Victor hadn't just managed the system. He'd built large parts of it himself. custom code?
Because they wouldn't pay for documentation.
Exactly. So all the intricate knowledge, the redundancies, the security layers he'd built in, the network architecture, it was mostly just in his head.
And he wasn't about to share it after being fired like that. He goes home, sits on the deck.
Right, has a bourbon. Elaine asks what he'll do, and he just says, something will turn up. Quiet confidence, maybe? Or just shock?
Well, something did turn up, but probably not what Veltria hoped. The calls started just 2 weeks later.
2 weeks. First call from Graham Vickers. Victor saw the caller ID, let it go to voicemail.
What was the message?
Problems with the tenant portal. The junior team couldn't figure out his code architecture. Could he maybe do a quick consult?
And Victor
Deleted the message.
shows how fast things unraveled.
Instantly. 3 more calls that day, Victor says, each one sounding more desperate.
And Alan's texting updates, too.
Yeah, Alan texted, "System's been down all day. Maintenance requests aren't processing. Graham's losing his mind." The impact was immediate and severe.
Then HR calls the next morning. Diane again.
Yep. Different tune now. Talking a quite generous consulting deal.
How generous.
$300 an hour, minimum 4-hour engagement.
And Victor's response.
Calmly said, "I'll think about it and get back to you." Then hung up.
What was he thinking then?
He described sitting at his kitchen table thinking, okay, I'm thinking they're finding out exactly what I'm worth. The cost cutting suddenly had a very real cost.
The calls kept coming for days, right?
Yeah.
More people involved.
Oh, yeah. Graham, Diane, even Justin Bayou, the founder's son, still on the board. The system failures were cascading. Tenant portal still down, maintenance scheduling chaos, and the big one, automatic rent payments failed. Thousands of people affected.
And Victor just didn't answer.
Didn't answer. Let the pressure build. They'd made their choice.
But then, day 4, a different kind of email arrives.
Right, from Devlin Systems, a competitor in the region.
This wasn't a plea for help.
No, completely different. It was from their director of technology, Lawrence Devlin, expressing actual admiration for Victor's work at Veltria, wondering if he'd be interested in helping them upgrade their systems.
A real opportunity.
Exactly. Victor replied, set up a meeting for the next day.
But the Veltria saga wasn't quite over yet. That evening.
Graham Vickers shows up.
Yeah.
At Victor's house, unannounced.
Seriously, what did he look like?
Victor said he looked stressed, suit wrinkled, glasses crooked, said it was an emergency. Entire system is down. Nothing is working. Total meltdown.
And the offer must have gone up again.
Significantly. $500 an hour. Whatever it takes, Graham pleaded. Pure desperation.
And Victor, standing there at his door.
Quietly refused. Mentioned he had an interview the next day. Repeated what he'd told Elaine. Something will turn up.
Closing the door on Graham. How did Victor feel then?
He describes it as peace. Clarity. Knowing he wasn't going to fix the mess they made by undervaluing him. It wasn't revenge, just consequence.
So the next day, the interview with Devlin Systems. How'd that go?
Really well. Lawrence Devlin called Victor's Veltria system legendary in our industry because it was reliable.
Legendary. That's quite a contrast to Veltria's view.
Isn't it? Lawrence even shared that Devlin had tried hiring bright young engineers themselves, built a system that crashed under load. They got it. They valued reliability over cheapness.
So Devlin made him an offer.
A great offer. Chief systems architect, full benefits, stock options, salary 20% higher than Veltria. Victor took it the next day.
It just shows your value isn't set by one company's short-sighted view.
Exactly. The market knew his worth, even if his old bosses didn't.
Okay, so Victor's starting this great new job, but Veltria is still floundering. Alan's keeping him in the loop.
Yeah, via text. Veltria got parts of the system back online, but critical stuff was still broken. They hired expensive consultants who were also stuck. They needed Victor's knowledge of the database structure.
So Graham called again.
Yep. Desperate. Lost payment records, tenants complaining, potential legal trouble brewing. Victor explained he had an exclusive contract now with Devlin.
Did Graham try to top the offer?
Tried to offer double Devlin's salary for just 2 days of work.
And Victor's response must have floored him.
Just, it's not about the money, which, must have been hard for Graham to compute.
So Graham accused him of wanting revenge, enjoying their struggle.
He did. And Victor's reply was measured, not angry. Basically, no, I'm not enjoying it, but you made a business decision based on cost. Now you're seeing the actual cost of that decision, just laying out the facts.
Veltria made one last official offer to come back full-time.
Full salary citing bonus. Victor admits a moment of satisfaction, but realized nothing fundamental had changed. Same execs, same mindset. He declined, citing his Devlin commitment.
And that's when Graham got nasty.
Threats? Nasty.
Yeah.
Veiled threats about legal action. Suggesting Victor intentionally made things difficult. Non-competes, IP issues. Trying to intimidate him.
How did Victor handle that?
Calmly, point by point. System was as he left it. They refused documentation funding. Code belonged to Veltria per contract. He took only his experience, told them to have their lawyers call his.
He said his hands were shaking after that call. Not fear, but anger.
Yeah, the accusation of sabotage. After 18 years of building that system, that was the final insult.
Such a contrast to his work at Devlin, starting fresh, doing it right.
Building properly from the start. Documentation, training, redundancy, no looking back. Veltria had to learn the hard way.
So about a month into the new job, Alan visits him, his old database admin.
Right. Alan shows up at Devlin, they grab lunch.
And Alan brings news from Veltria.
The full picture. And it was grim. Worse than you think, Alan said. Lost historical data 3 years worth. Corrupted backups. The consultants estimating 6 months, maybe more, just to rebuild, if they even could.
Why did the backups fail? Victor designed them.
That's the key. He built in safeguards. Redundancies, security protocols. You had to follow precise steps. Skip one, the backup fails. It was designed to protect data integrity, not to be foolproof for novices.
Not sabotage, but a system requiring expertise they'd just fired.
Exactly. But Alan had found something else while digging through archives for the consultants. Emails.
Emails.
About Victor.
Between Graham and the board, proving his termination wasn't impulsive. Graham had planned it for months. Sold the board on the idea that Victor's custom system was just too expensive, a liability.
What did they say specifically? Anything stand out?
Oh, yeah. Victor was named target number 1 in a legacy staff reduction plan. Graham promised they could replace him with cheaper engineers, transition in 6 months, save over $1 million a year.
Unbelievable. Just pure cost-cutting. And the line that really got Victor, Graham wrote, Hale's custom systems are unnecessarily complex. He's made himself indispensable by design, not necessity. Just completely misunderstanding or misrepresenting the situation.
And Alan figured out the why behind all this.
The private equity firm wanted a quick flip. Sell Veltria fast. Graham's job was to slash costs, make the books look good for a sale, regardless of the operational damage. Experienced staff were just numbers to cut.
So Alan showed Victor all this. Why? Had Alan left Veltria too?
He'd quit the day before, couldn't take the chaos, and told Victor half the IT department had already walked out with him.
Wow. The whole place was imploding.
And the biggest consequence, their major client, Westbrook Properties, almost a third of their revenue was about to bail because the system was unreliable.
So Alan quits, IT staff flee, biggest client leaving, but that lunch ended on a positive note.
It did. Victor hired Alan to join his team at Devlin, bringing expertise on board.
Okay, jump forward 2 more months. Victor's building his team at Devlin, and then Lawrence calls him in.
Big news. Lawrence just got off the phone with Jeffrey Westbrook, CEO of Westbrook Properties.
He's leaving Veltria.
Officially terminated the contract. And he asked Lawrence, can Devlin handle our portfolio now?
How big was Westbrook's portfolio again?
Huge. 10,000 units. More than double Devlin's entire operation at the time. Massive opportunity, massive challenge.
What was Victor's first thought? Can we do this?
He was realistic, said they weren't ready immediately, needed more engineers, more infrastructure, time.
But Westbrook was desperate because of Veltria's collapse.
Exactly. Jeffrey Westbrook said, you've got 12 weeks. And crucially, he offered to fund the infrastructure expansion needed at Devlin.
That's the turning point, right?
That's what Victor called it. Veltria's failure created this incredible opening for Devlin and for Victor.
So Victor pulls an all-nighter planning.
Yeah, mapping out the architecture. Ambitious but doable, hybrid approach, staged rollout.
And he had one non-negotiable condition for Lawrence. Based on the Veltria disaster.
Absolutely. Documentation. He insisted on adding 3 weeks just for documentation, training, and building redundancies. No single points of failure. He said flat out, that's where Veltria failed.
And Lawrence agreed.
Immediately.
Yeah.
Said, we've learned that lesson. Clear difference in philosophy. Build it right. Build it to last.
So next few weeks are intense. Hiring engineers, Alan building migration tools.
Right. They brought on 5 more engineers. 2 were actually former Veltria people who had left. Alan built this crucial database migration tool. Victor designed the core architecture.
And in the middle of all this, another email comes in for Victor from Justin Bayou.
Yes, the founder's son, still on Veltria's board.
What did he want? Still trying to get Victor back.
It was an apology. Admitted the board was misled, Graham was gone, Veltria was hurting badly, especially after losing Westbrook. And yeah, he said the door was still open,
Victor reply.
Nope, too late for that. Focused on the Devlin project.
10 weeks later, they're ready for the Westbrook rollout.
Ready for the first stage, yeah. Starting with Westbrook's smallest region.
And they meet with Jeffrey Westbrook again.
Day before the migration, Lawrence and Victor met with Jeffrey. He was impressed, praised the system Victor was building, knew it wouldn't break down like Veltria's. He knew Victor's history, too.
And then the other shoe drops. The news that ties it all together.
Right. Jeffrey confirms Veltria is basically on life support. The private equity firm can't sell it. So, Devlin Systems is thinking of buying Veltria.
Buying the company that fired Victor. At what price?
A massive discount. Less than a quarter of its value from just months earlier. The cost of ignoring Victor's value literally destroyed the company's value.
And Westbrook had a proposal for Victor if the acquisition went through.
He did. They'd need someone who understood both systems. Veltria's broken one and Devlin's new one to lead the integration. Salvage what they could, transition everything to the new platform. Basically asking Victor to take over the technical side of his old company.
The ultimate irony. What was Victor's condition?
Just one, same as before. Looked at Lawrence and Jeffrey. We do it right. Full documentation, proper training, no shortcuts.
And Lawrence.
Agreed instantly. We've learned that lesson.
Okay, 6 months later. Devlin bought Veltria for pennies on the dollar. The sign changes.
Devlin integrated property management. Victor and Lawrence walk through the old Veltria HQ. Victor sees former colleagues, some awkward, some relieved. Graham and the PE execs are gone. Justin Bayou is a consultant.
Does Victor go look at his old server room?
He pauses at the door, but decides against it. No need. Everything's moving to the new infrastructure he designed. His legacy is the future, not the past.
Then the meeting with the remaining Veltria staff, how does that go?
Lawrence introduces him as Chief Integration Officer. Victor addresses them, no gloating, no I told you so, just lays out the plan, promises support, and specifically says no one will be left behind due to cost cutting. The message was clear.
He's there to fix it, not punish people.
Exactly. Build something better for everyone involved.
Jump ahead 1 more year. The integration's done. Devlin is the biggest player in the region. Systems running smoothly, documented, staffed.
And Victor has his final meeting with Lawrence about his role going forward. The board approved his big idea. The Technical Education Division. Full autonomy. Starting next quarter.
And that was his condition for staying on after the integration. Not a title, not money, but this division.
Yeah. He wanted to train the next generation, teach them to build systems that last. Quality, documentation, resilience, the things Veltria ignored. Instill the right culture.
Lawrence got it right. He said it wasn't just tech, but the culture.
Exactly. Emphasis on quality over quick fixes.
So Victor's clearing out his integration office, ready for the new role, and Justin Bayou stops by.
One last time. Shares that his dad, Harold, the original owner, was glad Victor was back in a manner of speaking. Said Harold always knew letting Victor go was the biggest mistake.
And Justin himself had learned a hard lesson.
His words, value isn't always visible until it's gone. Sums it up perfectly.
Victor driving home that day.
Yeah.
Reflecting on value. Experience, care, doing things right. People.
No revenge needed. Building something better was the ultimate validation. He proved his worth and then got to rebuild the broken pieces on his own terms.
It's just such a clear narrative, isn't it? Undervalue expertise for short-term gain, disaster follows. Prove your value elsewhere, and sometimes you end up back on top.
Absolutely. Key takeaways for anyone listening. Documentation matters. Infrastructure isn't just a cost. Focusing only on the bottom line today can destroy your future. Expertise and quality have real, tangible value.
Makes you think about your own workplace, doesn't it? Or companies you interact with. Where are the victors? Where's the hidden value being overlooked?
Definitely. And it leaves us with that final thought, that question for you. How do you measure true value in your job, in an organization? Is it just the immediate price tag?
Or is it about resilience? That deep knowledge? The ability to build things, systems, teams, companies that actually last. Something to chew on until our next deep dive.